So I'm a biblical scholar, and so I'm not supposed to be interested in Aquinas. I'm not supposed to really care what Aquinas says. But the way that I really got into Aquinas, one, I had read Chesterton's biography of Aquinas years before, and I found it to be a huge inspiration. And so I'd already had an appreciation, of Aquinas before I ever read him as a primary source. But what happened was, this is when I was writing my dissertation. A big part of that is on Paul's epistle to the Galatians, and so I was reading everything within modern interpretation on Galatians and every kind of perspective that's out there. And as I did this, I found it to be a really, really difficult process, because I found within modern interpretation, you had all these various readers who were giving plausible readings of different fragments of Paul's epistle. So different, this part of Galatians or this part of Galatians. But they're all discordant. It was this sort of cacophony of interpretation, so that all these different interpreters were against each other. And I didn't really find that any of the interpreters made full sense of what the entirety of Paul's epistle. I didn't feel like it actually made sense of it from beginning to end. But what happened was, as I'm going through all this, I just got to a point where I couldn't see Paul anymore. I couldn't hear Galatians. It was just lost. It was it's kind of the problem with the forest and the trees. You can't see the forest anymore for the trees that are there. And it was a bit like that, where I just couldn't see the text anymore. I would open up the text, and I would just have all of these discordant interpreters going and arguing back and forth against each other in all these very small points. And so I reached a point where I was like, I just wish there was somebody I could read, on this epistle who would provide a coherent reading of it from beginning to end in a way that theologically just would seem sound. It would make sense, because I couldn't see the text anymore. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but somehow Aquinas came to mind. And I remembered I'd known from one of my mentors, Hans Boersma. I'd known his work on Romans, and so I thought to myself, I wonder if he has a commentary on Galatians. And I look online, and there is a commentary on Galatians, and you can read it. So I picked it up and started reading it. And I spent, this is probably a couple weeks, just reading through. It brought the epistle back to me so that I could see it again. Because the way that Aquinas, in his reasoning, the way that he's consistent throughout, and the way that he sees the apostle as being consistent as well, he's able to go and state at the beginning what he understands the thesis of the epistle to be. So the way that within the context of the argument in Galatians, that Paul is engaging the topic of the end of the sacraments of the old law, and how that relates to the institution of those in the new. He states the thesis at the outset, and then just traces that the whole way through, and doesn't see Paul as being inconsistent or out of his mind at any point. For me, in seeing the way that the epistle could be read in a cohesive manner, for me, enabled me to be able to see Paul again as a figure that made sense. And I was able to not ignore what you find within modern scholarship, but to be able to place them within a framework and a context where I could have some appreciation for at least the ideas and the theories that are there, without losing sight of the text itself. So for me, it was, it's interesting, my indebtedness to St. Thomas is more a personal one than anything, just in him helping me as a biblical scholar to be able to see St. Paul and his texts again. So I have a deep gratitude and debt to St. Thomas in that respect.